Welcome back to the Maven Show. This is your host, Rohit. Today we have Justin, the real estate investor and podcast host. Welcome, Justin, for getting into the show.
Thanks so much for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Would you just like to give a quick, long intro of yourself?
Yeah, I started out in my professional career when I was about 19 years old. So I didn't choose to go to college, but I wanted to find a way that I could still make good money because at that time, my parents were telling me, you got to go to college. If you want to make good money, you got to go to college. You have to follow this certain path. And it just really wasn't for me. I hated school. I gritted my teeth through the entire process, never wanted to go back. So I eventually got into real estate sales. I was selling single family homes in what was at the time and probably still is the third most competitive market in the country. Very high ticket home sales. As a 19-year-old, my average home sale was $2.2 million. So I was a really young guy getting after real estate investing. I was making a ton of money, but I wasn't really building a lot of wealth. And I was trading my time for money. And as an entrepreneur, I was burning out. I was feeling the burnout. I was feeling it creep up on me after a couple of years. And so I knew I had to build more wealth without trading my time. And that's what really brought me into investing, specifically into apartment buildings as a syndication company now. So that's what we do now. We have a syndication company, which means we take investors' money who want to invest in our deals passively. We take their money, buy larger apartment buildings, fix them up, refinance them, and continue to collect cash flow on behalf of our investors over the long term. So that's a really quick synopsis of my journey from selling single family homes to now owning, managing, running, and investing with alongside friends, family, and investors, big apartment buildings.
How to get into the real estate investing the right way,
Yeah, man. So there's so many different methods of investing in real estate. It's almost, once you get into this business, you find so many different strategies and methods like you never even knew existed. So the first thing I would do is I would figure out what you want out of real estate investing. Do you want to make a ton of money as fast as possible? Do you want longer, maybe more steady cash flow? And keeping in mind that usually the more money you're making in the shorter period of time, usually the more risk is associated with it. Right. So flipping a home is significantly riskier than buying a home that has a tenant in it that pays you monthly and kind of creates cash flow for you. So there's nothing wrong with either strategy. You just have to understand what game you want to play. And if you're in a position where you can afford to play riskier games for higher potential payouts. So that's the first thing I would determine. What do you really want to do with investing in real estate? If you want to make a ton of money up front, wholesaling is a great method if you have no cash to your name, which is essentially you look for undervalued homes, you put them under contract, then you sell that contract to another investor. So you never touch the property, you never put money down on the property. You really can make good money there. Flipping is another great way to make a lot of money faster. It's a little bit riskier, especially now with interest rates and the markets have just shot up, doubled or tripled in some cases over a year-long period. There's a lot of flippers in trouble because they didn't really anticipate that. But the trade-off is they have very, very high payoff potential. Once you get past single family or what we call residential stuff, you can go into commercial in all different facets. You can invest with somebody like me and take a passive position and now have larger properties in your portfolio. You can invest in real estate trusts, which even now are as easy as downloading apps and investing into some with as little as a couple $100 maybe. So there's so many ways you could do. I think the first step is to figure out if you want to do really quick, fast transactions, high payout potential, but high risk, or if you want something slower and more stable and more steady for more of a long-term wealth building strategy. I think that's a good first step.
What are the ways to invest in real estate and which one is most profitable?
Yeah. It again goes back to what you want. If you're going to look at the most profitable ways to invest in real estate, typically the bigger the deals, the more money you'll make. The way that different lending structures work. So let's say you have an apartment building that is 100 units versus you want to buy a 4-unit, like a fourplex. The way that banks actually see those two assets is different. So to buy the fourplex, if you don't have experience as a real estate investor, you will need to qualify to buy that entire property and pay the mortgage out of your personal income. You'll need to, even though you don't plan on living in all four, right? You maybe live in one and you rent 3 out, or you rent all 4. you won't be able to use projected rental income unless you have experience as a real estate investor. Now, if you go to the commercial side, so let's say you're buying a 100-unit property, you're buying it as an investment, and the banks know that. So you can use income from projected rents as income to pay the mortgage. So in some cases, you might actually have an easier time buying larger properties, or teaming up with people to buy larger properties than you might being a brand new into the real estate, trying to buy a smaller multifamily property. So that's one big thing that I learned too in this industry is sometimes it's a lot easier to go bigger than it is to stay in the small game too.
How you would like to speak about the different ways into the real estate investment?
If you want to really work on real estate investing is a job. I mean, it's really a job. A lot of people, they look at investors or they look at landlords and they think, oh, that's great. It's passive income. I buy a piece of property, the tenant goes in there, they pay me, and that's just great.
Yeah.
That might happen, on 5 or 10% of the properties you rent. But really, tenants are work. Managing properties is work. Finding properties is work. Financing properties is work. Disposing of properties or selling properties, a lot of it is work. So what a lot of people don't realize when they get in this game is they're saying, hey, I have a pretty good paying job right now. Let me take some of that money and become a landlord. They don't realize how much extra time that puts on them. And in certain markets, it's tough to get cash flow. A lot of times people think if you're going to put a tenant in a property, you'll make a couple $100 a month and it's kind of passive income. It's usually your margins are really, really small. In that sense, you might make $100 or $200 net a month after you save for expenses, which really isn't, in my opinion, worth a lot of the hassle of self-managing properties. So if you want to take more of a passive position in real estate, you really want to be like a passive investor, get passive income. There's only a few strategies that you can really do that with. The first is a syndication, which is what we do, which means we buy one property, we bring on multiple investors to pool in money. And teams like mine will actually do all the work because we're real estate professionals. This is our business. This is what we do, is what we know best. You can also look at some type of fund, meaning you put your money into a large pot of a bank account and somebody goes out there and buys a lot of properties with your money. Or you can look at a real estate investment trust or a REIT, which is, I brushed on it a little bit earlier, but again, you put in very small amounts into a bank account. They buy dozens and dozens of properties with this. So you have like fractional shares in a lot of properties. And those are truly passive. Any other strategy is going to involve at least some time, energy, and mental dedication to it.
How to work on your business, not in your business.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's such a great question. So for a lot of the listeners out there who are running a business, who are entrepreneurs, who are bloggers, who are content creators, who are really taking charge of their own destiny, their income, even sales professionals. I see so many people get stuck in working in their business that they never really get the chance to work on it, meaning they're working in the day-to-day a lot. They're doing everything that they need to do just to stay afloat, just to produce the content, just to write the content, just to continue servicing their existing business, that they forget that to run a business, you have to have business related goals, what a lot of times we call rocks, quarterly rocks. So one of the best pieces of advice I give to entrepreneurs is you have to dedicate some time, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, every single day to the grander, bigger picture of your business. Dedicated to what that growth looks like. How can you grow the business? What do you as an owner need to do? And what is the 20% of things that you need to do that'll have an 80% impact on your business? Whether looking for new business or optimizing ways that you currently run business, optimizing systems and processes. There's a lot of things that a business owner should do as opposed to working in the business. And I think just by dedicating, 30 to 60 minutes a day to really optimizing your business, you're going to see enormous growth. I think you got to work on something every single day for anything, right? Whether it's business or you want to learn a language or learn an instrument or anything. Yeah, dedicate a little bit every single day. And after that compounds over a couple months or a year, you're going to see an enormous difference from where you started.
Well, it was good to have you into the show, man. And it was lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for getting into the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if anybody out there is listening, you want to learn more about passively investing in real estate, I have a free ebook. You can go check it out. It's at thedefinitive.guidebook.com. It's called The Definitive Guide to Passive Real Estate Strategies. So again, if that's something you're interested in, I wrote it, it took me about 15 hours to write it. It takes you about 15 seconds to download it. Hopefully you get some value out of it.
We will place it on the description so anyone can find it.
Love it. Love it. But yeah, this has been a great show, man. I really appreciate being on.